Born on February 13, 1961, his childhood was very rough. He lived with an alcoholic mother who died when he was 11, a father who killed himself when Duane Eugene Owen was 13, and Owen started drinking and drugging since he was 9. Owen grew up in the Midwest. Owen lived in a Michigan orphanage until he was 18, at which time he traveled throughout the country before making his way to South Florida, where his brother lived. In 1982, that same year, he was arrested on burglary charges, beginning a series of run-ins with law enforcement. From 1982 to 1984, Owen was arrested on various charges, including attempted murder and sexual battery. Duane Eugene Owen, a registered sex offender, his routine was he illegally entered the house of several women at night and sexual abused them. On March 24, 1984, Duane Owen cut through a bedroom screen at a home where Karen Slattery was watching a 7-year-old and 3-year-old and confronted her in the kitchen. She had called her mom at 10 p.m., but was dead by 12:30 when the children's parents found her. Owen had stabbed Karen Slattery 18 times, then raped her. The children were unharmed. Karen Slattery was a 14-year-old freshman at what was then known as Pope John Paul II High School in Boca Raton, when she was murdered by Owen in 1984. Slattery was babysitting 2 children when Owen broke in, stabbed her multiple times, and then sexually assaulted her. The children Slattery was babysitting were unharmed. Her body was exhumed, with the permission of family members, in 1991 so that prosecutors could, ahead of Owen's retrial, compare wounds on her body with a knife believed to have been the murder weapon. About 2 months later, Georgiana Warden, 38, an executive secretary and mother of 2 children who was separated from her husband, was sleeping when she awoke to a hammer coming down on her head. Owen struck her 4 more times on the head and face. He also raped her after he got into the Boca Raton home in May 1984. Court documents say she may have been alive up to an hour after the first blow. Her 13-year-old daughter found Warden posed the next morning before she went to school. Both were not Owen's only victims. 2 Boca Raton women were hit in their homes with blunt objects, a plumber's wrench and an clothing iron, but they survived. In Warden's murder, police found a fingerprint on a copy of Mistral's Daughter by Judith Krantz, which was lying on her bedside table. Owen was arrested on April 30, 1984, on unrelated charges. During the interrogation that occurred over the next several weeks, Owen confessed to this murder. Owen's fingerprint was also found on a library book in the victim's home. Owen's court journey lasted decades after he was initially convicted and sentenced to death in 1985 for Slattery's killing. Representing him were famed defense attorneys Michael Salnick and Barry Krischer, who went on to become Palm Beach County State Attorney for 16 years. Owen got the same sentence in 1986 for killing Warden. Then the appeals began. Owen said police officers improperly Mirandized him. He got a new trial in 1999 in Slattery's death, where he claimed he was insane, looking for hormones that night so he could become a woman. The jury didn't buy it and sentenced him again to death. Owen filed a direct appeal to the Florida Supreme Court on April 7, 1986. Owen filed a 3.850 motion in the Circuit Court on July 31, 1986. A Rule 3.850 motion refers to Florida Rule of Criminal Procedure 3.850. This rule gives people who have pled guilty or who have been convicted of a crime in the state of Florida the opportunity for relief in certain circumstances. Relief from the guilty plea or conviction is not automatic, however. Even if a person qualifies under the Florida Rule of Criminal Procedures, the person must make a motion to the court requesting the relief the law allows, and it's quite hard to prove. Which is exactly why you need an experienced post-conviction relief lawyer to help you file correctly. On September 1, 1986, the court transferred jurisdiction of the case to the trial court in order to allow for a ruling on the 3.850 motion. On October 20, 1987, the motion was dismissed and jurisdiction was returned to the court. In his direct appeal, Owen raised several issues surrounding the guilt phase of his trial. His main claim was that the confession obtained by law enforcement violated his Sixth Amendment right to counsel. The court ruled that Owen's Sixth Amendment right was not violated because the interrogation session that resulted in the confession took place prior to his first court appearance. In reference to the penalty phase, all of Owen's claims were either found to be harmless or were rejected by the Florida Supreme Court. The court affirmed the sentence and conviction on January 23, 1992. The rehearing was denied on April 1, 1992, and the mandate was issued on May 1, 1992. On August 14, 1992, Owen filed a petition for writ of certiorari to the United States Supreme Court. On October 13, 1992, the petition was denied. Owen then filed an amended 3.850 motion to the Circuit Court on October 13, 1994. A hearing was held on November 5, 1997, where the court denied some claims and scheduled others for an evidentiary hearing. The evidentiary hearing was held on December 8, 1997. The first witness at the hearing was Barry Krischer, Owen's attorney for the original Slattery trial. After Mr. Krischer's testimony, Owen decided not to proceed with the hearing because it would violate attorney-client privilege. Therefore, the 3.850 motion was denied. A 3.850 appeal was filed to the Florida Supreme Court on January 7, 1998. Owen claimed that the Circuit Court erred in its denial of the motion. The Florida Supreme Court found no abuse of discretion by the Circuit Court, and the Circuit Court's denial of the 3.850 motion was affirmed on September 21, 2000. The rehearing was denied on November 13, 2000, and the mandate was issued on December 13, 2000. Owen filed a petition for writ of certiorari to the United States Supreme Court on February 23, 2001. The petition was denied on April 2, 2001. Owen filed a 3.850 motion to the Circuit Court on July 29, 2001. The motion was denied on September 21, 2001. Owen then filed a petition for writ of habeas corpus to the Florida Supreme Court on September 28, 2001. He also filed a 3.850 appeal to the Florida Supreme Court on November 7, 2001. Both were denied. On November 7, 2001, Owen filed a 3.850 appeal to the Florida Supreme Court. The court affirmed the trial court's denial of the 3.850 motion on July 11, 2003. Owen then filed a motion for a rehearing, which was denied on September 2, 2003. A mandate was issued on October 2, 2003. On December 15, 2003, Owen filed a petition for a writ of habeas corpus to the United States District Court, Southern District, which was denied. Palm Beach County Circuit Judge Richard Burke twice sentenced Owen to die for his crimes, first for the murder of Slattery and again for Warden's murder. Burke ruled that Owen's confession could be used at Owen's first trial for Slattery's murder. It was that confession that ultimately led to a retrial in 1999. Convicted murderer Duane Eugene Owen was executed on June 15, 2023, by lethal injection in Florida. Owen, who was sentenced to die after being convicted of brutally murdering a mother of two and a 14-year-old babysitter in 1984, he was pronounced dead at 6:14 p.m. Thursday the 15th of June 2023, at Florida State Prison in Rayford. Owen woke up at 7 a.m. on the day of his execution. At 9:45 a.m., he ate his last meal, which consisted of a bacon cheeseburger with no bun, onion rings, a vanilla milkshake, cherry ice cream, strawberries and coffee. Owen had no visitors. When asked if he had any last words, Owen replied, "No." The 62-year-old had been on death row for 38 years, avoiding execution amid numerous legal appeals. Owen was the fourth person put to death in Florida this year. A total of 103 prisoners have been executed in the Sunshine State since capital punishment was reinstated by the Supreme Court in 1976. Thank you for watching Death Row.